Hello everyone, welcome to today's episode. We have the pleasure of speaking with Francesca Milani, who brings her extensive experience as both a midwife and a lactation consultant. Francesca will share her insights into breastfeeding, addressing common misconceptions, challenges, and the vital support needed for new moms. Hello everyone. Today we have Francesca with us. Thank you so much for being my guest. Could you please start by introducing yourself, what it's like to be a lactation consultant and a midwife?
Hi, everyone. Hi, Margarita. Thank you for having me today. Well, so my journey as a midwife and lactation consultant started a very, very long time ago at high school when I had one day the opportunity to bring my mom to have her gynecological examination with a gynecologist who helped her to give birth to me many, many years ago. And so we were talking about my interests, what I was going to do at university. And so I remember looked at me and said, okay, why don't you stay with us this afternoon? And do you want to wear the scrub suit and just join in our delivery in labor room? And I said, okay, yes, why not? And I remember that moment as one of the most magical and powerful moment of my life because it was so there was this mom who gave birth to Anita, and I remember the midwife's job, and it was amazing. And I remember I told myself, okay, that's what I want to do in my life. And so I attended the university. I had a bachelor degree in midwifery and a master's degree in nursing and midwifery sciences applied to management and clinical research, and worked at a university hospital where we assisted more than 2,500 births per year. And after that, I moved to another hospital where I had the chance to have an experience in the neonatal unit as well, and so to understand the unmet needs, what were the unmet needs of moms in their breastfeeding journey, and that's why I decided to become a lactation consultant. And a few years later, I had like the feeling that there was so much more to do to put women at the center with their needs and their babies' needs. And so that's why I decided to quit the hospital and to start a private practice as midwife and IBCLC lactation consultant. And so it's what I'm doing in my daily basis. And so to bring my clinical expertise, but more than this, my support to new families and newborn babies and new moms.
Fascinating. Thank you so much. Following this, we're going to focus on breastfeeding at the moment. Could you please share an overview of what is your perspective on, are there any stigma or misconceptions in society in Italy that affect a woman's choice to breastfeed or not?
Well, yeah, what I usually say is that um, around breastfeeding, even more around pregnancy or preconception, there are so many misconceptions, so many myths that can be very, very stressful and overwhelming for new moms. So, for example, we have myths like you can't take medicine while you're breastfeeding, or you cannot go back to have physical activity during your breastfeeding journey, or for example, you have your breast milk is not enough, so you have to give your baby formula, or so a lot of myths and breastfeeding. So, for example, today is the last day of our national breastfeeding week in Italy, which is as we have know, we have the International Breastfeeding Week, and so we have our National Breastfeeding Week. So to raise awareness about breastfeeding and related issues. And so I was reading articles in these last few days that only 46% of babies are breastfed at 2 to 3 months of age. And this percentage drops up to 30 to 23% at 4 to 5 months of age. And still, like around 11-12% of babies are never breastfed, so even though right now all the benefits are largely known, for both mom and babies, and I really think that this happened because of the gap and because of the lack of support around moms and around their breastfeeding journeys. So there's a beautiful saying that it takes a village to raise a child, and I think that this explains a lot of things because like 40 or 50 years ago we had a more comprehensive community around new moms. So there was the grandma, there was the aunt, there was people around that share in a more compassionate way their experience, and they were like their example. No, they show their example to these moms. But nowadays it's not this way because we had a huge gap in 80s and 90s where almost every child was didn't receive breast milk but received formula, and so we had this generational gap. And so nowadays we have to fight against a lot of this myth, as I was saying. And the support is what is the thing that is lacking many times.
Hmm.
And also the lot of
Okay.
unsolicited advice that moms receive.
Yeah. This is quite of an issue, I'd say, with the unsolicited advice coming from my perspective in Bulgaria also. But when you say support, what type of support is best for a mom to receive? For instance, if her partner or her close friends and loved ones, how can they support her in this journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, because some partners, even from the prenatal classes, so during prenatal education about breastfeeding, ask me this question. So, how can I support my partner to I don't want to say to exclusive breastfeed, but like to achieve their goals because every mom and every family has their goals, about breastfeeding. That could be a mix. It could be an exclusive breastfeeding or it could be a mixed or whatever it is, And so I think that we can break down the support in like three great areas, which are encouragement. So like validation, motivation, and a positive attitude towards breastfeeding and their and mom's expectation. We have the physical and practical support. So, for example, the household responsibilities like cooking, cleaning, doing the laundry, or grocery shopping, or like this, or take care of other toddler in the house. And we have the emotional understanding. So because sometimes, not rarely, unfortunately, when I during my home visit in the postpartum period, I see partners or, for example, mothers-in-law or people around mom that say, "Oh, if you could just give the bottle to your baby, you could sleep more." Or, you see, the baby is eating super well with the formula. I mean, of course, it's eating super well with the formula. But maybe it's not what this mom wants to feed her baby, And so understanding
Yeah.
that postpartum is I mean, motherhood in general is beautiful, is magical, but comes with a lot of challenges too, and a lot of um, like it's like a roller coaster of emotions, of hormones, of like with your estrogen and progesterone levels that drops, and you always feel like you're not enough for your baby. You are very hard on yourself, because even as you were saying very, very correctly, we have a lot of societal expectations and standards like uh, to be achieved. No, we have to bounce back to our bodies right away, or we have to go back to work and still produce a lot of milk. And so a lot of expectations and standards that uh, mom can struggle with, for especially in the very first period of postpartum.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. It's quite an emotional roller coaster, as you said. And following what you've said earlier about unsolicited advice, are there any strategies that you would say to your clients or patients? What can I do? Because my mom is keep telling me that I should stop breastfeeding because it's more than a year now, but where I want to breastfeed. So, are there a lot of clients coming with this type of issue, and how would they go over it?
Mm. Good question. I mean, it's a struggle that I observe in more or less my daily basis practice. Well, the first thing I would suggest is to get informed and to receive an adequate knowledge about breastfeeding, so the breastfeeding journey, and above all, breastfeeding red flags. So, for example, what we shouldn't expect, and what is not normal, and for what we should seek for support, and, like, for example, professional advice. So, for example, red flags are that breastfeeding shouldn't be painful, that nipple cracks or nipple pain is not normal, that experiencing recurrent engorgement or clogged ducts, or the most severe condition as mastitis is not normal. So there's underneath something that we should investigate. So, for example, is not correct or optimal latch of the baby to the breast, or an non-optimal way to empty the breast during each feed session. And so the first thing is to be informed, and to receive knowledge, and to receive, for example, during birth classes, to receive the most comprehensive informations about this journey as possible. The second thing I would suggest is to think about what are realistic expectations and not realistic expectations, taking into account our families. No, because so be clear with our families with about our goals. So to say that breastfeeding our babies is like our priority in this moment. So being clear about our goals and about our desires can help new moms to receive more support from their partners and their family members. What about the unsolicited advice, so the not requested at all advice that moms receive from neighbors or friends, or when you go grocery shopping, even? Is uh, just to breathe. I would say just to breathe, and just to know that to put all these advice and questions and uh, these thoughts into what they are, like thoughts, advice, and opinions from other person, other people, and their personal journey about this experience. So put that into a box and
Yeah.
find that in that way. So that is your experience, like, not to be rude with these people, but just to say, okay, I appreciate that you're sharing this, but this is your experience, this is what worked for you and your baby and your family, but maybe my
Mm.
experience is different. And so try not to be judgmental in a positive way.
Yeah. Yeah, this can be really difficult. I presume probably with your parents, but again, I would say maybe say to them that I'm going to do it differently because we have this generational gap and things are happening differently. And I know that you have raised a kid, me, but I can also try on my own doing what I can. So thank you for the advice. And because you already mentioned about the prenatal education, would you say that everything that is in like in Italy as a journey when you're pregnant to have this prenatal education, do they give enough information for breastfeeding and formula feeding and all the complications that can happen with it?
Well, according to my experience, not always, unfortunately, because what I'm very, very, very focused to do in my birth classes during pregnancy is like to be very, very clear about what is. We have of course, it. We had the famous book, What to Expect. So I want to be very clear about what to expect. So just not tell mom like a fairy tale uh, romance about breastfeeding and postpartum, but of course not mention all the negative aspects. Of course not. I don't want to threaten or scare them, absolutely not. I want to reassure them, but I like to be honest, okay? Because saying that breastfeeding is always natural, breastfeeding is always easy, is simple, and is always the same, for every mom, is not true, right? It's not true. And so, because we have to say that even though breastfeeding is a natural moment, it doesn't always comes naturally to every mom and every baby, because we have so many things involved, because we have to take into account the position of the baby, the latch. We can have sorry, we can have a tongue tie. We can have for example, a neural motor dysfunction of the baby, and we can have so many things involved. For example, in the for what regards nipple pain or nipple cracks, that so I think that I like during prenatal education, for example, is to show videos. I think it is a form, is very digestible and very, very, very simple to see, no, and to remember as well, because we have to take into account the mom brain, and so the memory of images and video, I think, is super, super useful for my experience. And so to show and to make mom and dads reflect. So for example, how do you find this latch, do you think is correct? What could we do? Or, for example, okay, do you know there are some other methods to give baby a formula if we experience low milk supply at the beginning? So try to be mom and dad and their partner in general more involved, so asking a question and making them reflect, and the other important thing is to focus on, as I was saying before, focus on red flags. So what we cannot expect, what is not normal, and what we have to seek support for right away if we experience it. And yeah, I think is super important. But
Hmm.
according to my experience, I think there's a gap, because is very often in my practice as a lactation consultant, I come across with moms that tell me, oh, but nobody told me during the prenatal class of the hospital, for example, that I would have nipple cracks, and more specifically, and more importantly, how to take care of them. Okay, because uh, for example, the rest of the nipple, like stop breastfeeding, isn't the solution for the nipple crack or the nipple pain, but correcting the latch of that baby is the solution, first of all. So to assess a feeding and to observe a latch is the most important thing in that moment. Stopping breastfeeding can make us more vulnerable to have a breast engorgement in that moment, or a mastitis, and as well as wearing a nipple sheet is not either a solution, right? So uh, mom need to know about what can go wrong and to have the solution at hand.
Yeah. And what about moms who can't breastfeed? So, my question here is more like what if a client or patient comes to you and says, I really need to breastfeed, but she can't? So, what would be your advice then? And is that, have you seen that this affects their mental health also?
Wow, okay. It's a great question. Okay, so well, I see many moms that struggle with challenges. So, for example, the most common challenges that mom face in the early postpartum are nipple pain, nipple cracks, breast engorgement, clogged ducts, mastitis, and low milk supply. Okay, but when we talk about low milk supply, we have to make a difference between what is called the perception of low milk supply and the concrete, real low milk supply. Okay, because many moms, I would say the majority of mom in the very few weeks of postpartum have the perception, have the fear of not producing enough milk for their babies. Okay, because still because of maybe unsolicited advice or misconception. So for example, like they think they have to follow a strict feeding routine. Okay, so you have to feed your baby 10 minutes on one breast, and then you have to switch on to the other breast, or you have to breastfeed every 3 hours, uh, and so on. But this is could be true for some babies, but couldn't be true for other many other babies. So what I would recommend is to just follow your baby's hunger cues, so that your breast in your body will just adapt the production of milk to their needs, to their demand. Okay, and so what we have to take into account when we talk about low milk supply is just what is concrete. So low baby's weight gain, okay, or the output of diapers, of pee and poop throughout the day. For example, after the milk onset, if we have a baby that is not uh, um, uh, they're in like more than 5 or 6 sorry, diapers of pee throughout the day, is a baby that would need more milk, maybe. Okay, or a baby that lost more than 10% of his weight gain weight gain weight sorry birth weight is a baby that would need maybe some supplementation with a formula. Okay, but there are many ways to increase, to build your milk supply. Okay, so and even if we start our breastfeeding with some challenges in a low milk supply, and we start with giving formula to our babies, it doesn't mean that we'll end our breastfeeding journey right away, or we end with a formula, because there are ways to increase our milk supply, and there are ways to give formula that aren't only the bottle. So for example, we have the spoon method, we have the finger method, we have many other methods to give the formula to our babies in this moment where we want to work on our breasts to increase our production of milk. um, in order not to arrive a point where the baby can refuse the breast, or where the suckle pattern from the bottle to the breast is different, so can make more difficult to the baby to latch onto the breast after that. And so what the most important advice that I would give to these moms that struggle with the low milk supply is to feed more frequently. So to follow, to observe their baby's hunger cues, like for example, when your baby is turning his head, or is licking, or all the hunger cues. So not just waiting for when he cries, okay, and bring them to the breast, and make sure that your latch is correct. So he's with his mouth wide open, and you can see him swallow during the feed. And another thing also is to get rest, to get plenty of fluids, have a healthy diet, because in this roller coaster of emotions, as you were saying, we can very easily to forget to take care of ourselves, but in a
Yeah.
stressful and painful and situation of dehydration, of course our milk supply will decrease, of course, because it's like a protection for mom's body,
Mhm.
and about the link, the relationship between breastfeeding and maternal mental health. There are a lot of reviews and literature that confirm that overall, breastfeeding, exclusive breastfeeding, is associated with a more positive outcome for maternal mental health. But when we have to face struggles and challenges, these can impact in a very profound way the maternal mental health. So, especially if not unmet and if not addressed. And so, it's very important also because of that to seek for support, and to have even uh, to think about that even during pregnancy. So, for example, with your midwife or your gynecologist, to think about what could be risk factors for early onset depression, postpartum. To think about that.
Yeah. Okay, so it was really interesting for me to understand that, because I started thinking, so maybe, but when a mom is really anxious about her breastfeeding, and when she tries to breastfeed, but because of the anxiety and everything, she's not eating well, she's not sleeping, even like if she's sleeping even worse, besides the fact that she needs to be awake so many more hours now that she's a mom. But this also could affect your breastfeeding, right? So it can affect your milk supply. Is that what you're saying? So
Yeah.
everything is connected.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Everything is connected. Absolutely. And is connected from so many point of view, and from a scientific point of view. I want to share this.
Hmm.
So we have the two main actors of breastfeeding. from an hormonal point of view are prolactin and oxytocin. Okay, we have to think about that. So prolactin is the hormone that is
Yeah.
responsible for milk production, and oxytocin is a hormone that is responsible for like squeezing the milk throughout the lactiferous ducts and so to arrive to the baby. But in stressful situation, in painful situation, in overwhelming situation, when we judge ourselves, when we are so hard on ourselves, when we experience lack of sleep, lack of encouragement from our family members, in these situations, oxytocin, which is responsible for the letdown reflex, is inhibited. Okay, so even if we have a good milk production in this mom, so the milk ejection reflex will result in inhibited. Okay, and so the milk will not come down. Okay, and that's the magic. That's the magic of breastfeeding, and that's why we have to take into account even the maternal mental health topic, because it is
Yeah.
so correlated and so important for that, and we have to think about that. So for example, when I go and I have some home visit, I say is one of my mm, question is, okay, are you sleeping? Do you have the chance to rest? Are you going out? Like to have just a little walk to get a bit of fresh air? Are you eating? And are you hydrated? And I offer. So there's the scene. There's the mom. There's the mom who's breastfeeding, and me. Then I'm offering the bottle of water, or I'm encouraging the partner to offer something to drink in that moment, because yeah, it seems a teeny tiny thing, but can really makes the difference in that moment.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay, so now going from a different point of view, I wanted to ask you, is in Italy okay to breastfeed in public, or is that also are people looking at differently on women who breastfeed in public? And this affect also when do you breastfeed and how do you breastfeed overall your milk supply?
Well, okay. I was thinking about that in this week because of the National Breastfeeding Week, and well, I see still many moms who bring me this experience to me, like they are a bit ashamed to breastfeed in public, but luckily not as much as a few years ago because of this raising in awareness about breastfeeding and the related issues. And so for example, I remember there was a campaign a few years ago where, okay, so about breastfeeding in public. So there was a mom, so you should cover yourself. You know this. I remember this image, and so there was this mom who was covering her face, but still keeping her baby to the breast, not covered, to yeah, to underline, to highlight this thing, because well, I think that we still have a little bit of a gap in our culture, but in Italy, we can see an increasing number of moms who are breastfeeding in public. The thing that I would say they are a little bit struggling still the most is with their in the workplace, because in the workplace is still a huge struggle. Not only because going back to work, you have to juggle many things. So to think about avoiding breast engorgement in the short term and avoiding a reduction in milk production in the long term. So taking care of how many times you should breast pump, according to your baby feeding schedule throughout the day, but also because to have a moment for you in the workplace. And what I mean for having a moment for you is not going just in the bathroom for 5 minutes and breast pump. It's just like having maybe like 20 or 30 minutes of peaceful, of a quiet environment around you, because again the milk ejection reflex in a stressful situation is not best, no, to remove the in an efficient way the milk from the breast. And going back to work is what I found is most difficult for moms to keep up with their milk supply for their babies. And Also, another thing is to have a knowledge. And so to be informed in a proper way of the correct tools that they can take advantage of. Because, for example, we often think that breast pump, no, are all the same. They're more or less all the same. But it's not the truth, the truth, because we have so many tools, so many advice available right now that choosing the right one could be a bit difficult. And many moms don't know that apart from choosing the correct tool, we have to choose the correct flange, so which is the tunnel in which our nipple goes, back and forth during the pumping session, because we have different nipple measure. Okay, it's an important thing we have to take into account, both for choosing nipple shield, for example, and for the pumping flange. And These can make a huge difference even for the amount of milk you can produce, because if the flange is uh, too narrow, okay, you will experience nipple pain and maybe nipple cracks either, okay. But if the flange is too big for your nipple, the amount of milk you're able to express in that moment won't be efficient, won't be enough. So, and you will feel, I have many moms that tell me, okay, but after the breast pump I can feel my breast that is not empty, it's still full. What should I do? There something going wrong with my pump? And so choosing the right flange, the right measure of the flange for your nipple is what makes the difference in this moment, for example. And so again, be informed during pregnancy and be informed during your breastfeeding journey makes the difference.
Yep. I can definitely see what you're saying about being in the workplace. I think there is a huge issue all over the world when it comes to giving moment to moms to be in their private and precious times with either breast pumping or something else. But following, because our time is going to an end, I wanted to ask one last question. What message would you like to give to society about the importance of breastfeeding or not breastfeeding mothers?
Wow. You give me a lot of responsibilities with with this question. Like to raise a lot of awareness about that. Wow, okay. I think it's not my job in this moment to bother you with all the benefits that breastfeeding have has both for mom and babies. But Um, well, okay. I can tell you. I can share what I always say to my mom, to my moms, is that my job and our job, even as a society in general, is not only to recommend. Okay, just you have to you need to breastfeed. It is important to breastfeed, like to put a lot of pressure on that. But I think that the most important thing is to give the tools, to give the opportunities, to give the chance for all the moms to achieve whatever are their goals about breastfeeding, but also about, it's the same for birth, it's the same for pregnancy, right? Such, for example, to have an unmedicated birth or whatever. And for breastfeeding is the same. So to give the
Yeah.
tools. So, for example, it could be useful to have a lactation consultant in every hospital for the very few days of postpartum that can make the difference to assess a correct latch, or even like a continuity of care when these moms go home. That would be great. Yeah. So, like, so give the tools, give more opportunities, give more chances to these moms, because I can see many moms that would really would want to breastfeed. And so giving the support really makes the difference. Because, for example, I have moms, they say, okay, I have my mom that share a message with me that made me feel very touched, because she ended her breastfeeding journey with her daughter after many months of breastfeeding. And she said, I knew this mom during pregnancy, and she was super scared of breastfeeding, because she had so many negative experience in her circles. And so she wouldn't want to breastfeed her baby. But so with our classes, with our conversation, we said, okay, let's give it a try, and we'll see. And she experienced nipple cracks, and we solved that. We solved the latch, we fixed everything. And so she said, I probably wouldn't have been able to do that without your support. So uh, the support is and the tools are very important in this moment for moms. So
Mhm.
ask for advice, not unsolicited advice, but ask for professional, or I mean, don't be harsh on yourself, and think that something that is going wrong today can be fixed, and we can breastfeed our babies in other ways that can help us in our breastfeeding journeys.
Thank you so much, Francesca. That was really insightful. You're my first guest talking about breastfeeding, and it was really interesting for me to hear also. And I really hope that our audience would find this insightful and really valuable. So, thank you so much for sharing all of this with us.
Thank you, Margarita. It was such a pleasure for me. Hope it helps many moms.